And good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. This is the Short Back and Sides podcast. And we're coming back with that midweek shape up, you know, when you know you're about to link a thing over the weekend and you need to get that little mark up, you need to look nice. So you're up in the barbers, right? And this is us. So today, I'm your host, Millionaire Mike. You know me, but I've got my panel, my esteemed gentlemen. And then to my right, we've got the man out of Colombia. Please tell the people who you are, sir.
It's confidential, man. It's classified. RW Lamont.
All right, thank you very much, Lamont. Sorry, I think I G'd you up to HMRC right about now.
Yeah, something like that.
In the middle, it's the man with a P. You know, please tell us where you are and who you are, my man.
No pleasure P today, broken P. Disappointment tonight.
Yeah, man.
Broken P.
At the time of this recording, Arsenal just been eliminated from the Champions League, so I know the feeling, my guy. I know the feeling. It's not pleasure P today, sad P.
Madrid just beat Man City, so
Real Madrid just beat Man City. Fantastic.
Every cloud.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful news for all of us who support Arsenal and who hate Man City. Go on to Real Madrid. And obviously, last but not least, the man that saves the world. He's not Clark Kent, it's not Superman, but who have we got?
We got the DOC, the DOC.
Yeah, the DOC, man. Much love to you guys. Listen, thank you very much, gentlemen. Avengers. You come to get your trims, you come to get your shape up. But today, we're going to talk about a very interesting subject. Or shall I say, a very divisive and controversial figure in the popular world, but most importantly in the black world, in our world. And that is the recent death of OJ the Juice Simpson. OJ the Juice Simpson. Now, this is an interesting one, right? For those of you who don't know, particularly for our audience listening and watching us, but OJ Simpson died last week of prostate cancer at the age of 76. For those of you who follow us on our socials and have been with us from the beginning, you may recall the recent episode where we touched on the dangers and the concerns surrounding black men particularly and prostate cancer. So if you want to have a quick listen, a quick watch of the video that we did, please don't forget to just, when you finish this episode, just click over to my right and then take a look. And the doc really gives us some very interesting insight as to how we ought to diagnose ourselves and hopefully prevent this disease that, on all seriousness, has killed many black men, including OJ Simpson himself, the Juice. Now, gents, before we crack on, I each want to sort of get an idea from yourselves of your first experience, your first encounter with OJ Simpson. We all know what happened in 1994. It was dubbed the trial of the century. But before that, I'm sure that some of us have come across OJ Simpson in our own particular way. So can I start with you, Doc? Give me your earliest memory of OJ.
No, I've got to be honest. My earliest memory of OJ was seeing some coverage of man just driving down the motorway. You know, it reminds me of the old school GTA where it only shot you pretty from the top.
Yeah.
Real life GTA.
Yeah, in that white Bronco.
My man said, nah.
So that was the first time you heard of OJ, came across OJ, yeah?
It wasn't the first proper time, to be fair.
Okay, all right, cool, that's fine. Move on to Pleasure P, man. Pleasure P, tell me about your first time, man, knowing OJ.
Yeah, the first time I knew he was the movies, Naked Gun.
Yeah,
I think I saw number 2 before number 1. I always remember him being fucked up in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
The cast and stuff.
Yeah, I remember.
So I didn't realize, but then that's when someone told me, because I was like, who is this guy? Because he wasn't like a TV star or nothing. Obviously he was in the movies.
Yeah.
And then someone told me he was like an American football star. I didn't realize he played like in the 60s. Nothing like that, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This side of the pond, we didn't really know him like that. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, same here. I came across him, watching the movies. And what about you, RW, man? What's your first memory of OJ? Very first memory.
For me, it's the Naked Gun. It's got to be the Naked Gun series. Again, I didn't know he was an athlete. If I'm completely honest, I just thought, well, it's that black guy from Naked Gun. That's just how I remembered him. But then I kind of looked at, saw different things and then realized, okay, he's known for something else. But I really didn't twig that he was this huge kind of American football star,
Football star,
which
yeah.
I think a combination of that, and the Naked Gun series just made him very accessible, I think, to American pop culture at the time.
Yeah.
And his quite neat features.
Neat features. Right. Expand on that.
Neat.
Are we talking like the Muhammad Ali sort of, type of black man?
Yeah, it's exactly. It's not it's not Chris Eubanks, really, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's and that's what I mean. He was just slightly less threatening.
Yeah,
he was, he's yeah, and hey, look, it worked for him. That was his brand, and he clearly made the most of it.
He certainly did. Now, it was interesting listening to all of you because some of us essentially have got the memories ranging from his acting career, down to, I guess, one of his most controversial and notable moment in his life, which was the trial of his double murder, which he was acquitted from in 1994. Now, do any of you remember how racially divisive this trial was?
Absolutely. 100%. It was the 9/11 before 9/11.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I remember everyone was talking about it that day, when it was coming up to the final hearing. Everyone. There was no one that, and it was a huge divide, and there was, people saying, he's gotten away with murder. It was, if I'm honest, it was big in the UK, but probably it was colossal in America. I remember watching the news and just seeing it was, and people, you see the black people cheering, and then you got to like all the white people going, they just couldn't believe it, and then the black people going,
yeah.
So it was massively divisive.
Now, what was interesting is we've got so much to talk about because I think OJ touches on a lot of subjects that we've spoken of as a group, as a collective on various occasions. But you have a successful black athlete, actually. I think he will go down in the Hall of Fame, in his respective endeavors in American football history. Super successful, married a white woman, was acquitted from the murder of his ex-wife and of her friend. And what was interesting at the time, if you recall, is a lot of black people felt that OJ was a bit of a sellout for marrying a white woman back then. But yet, when it came to this interesting trial, when it came to this so-called scrutiny of a black man being judged or on the justice, undertaking the course of justice, suddenly he's an N-word again. He's one of us again, and that was this is what I found quite interesting because he was seen almost as a beacon of hope amongst many black people as far as the criminal justice system is concerned. But do you think that the support that OJ received was purely based on racial ground rather than actually looking at the case, looking at the intricacies of the case, and for most black people believing that he was innocent of the crimes that he was being accused of? I want to go to Pleasure P on this one.
So I was quite young actually when this all happened. I was about 7 or something like that, so I don't really remember so much. But the one thing, when I look back, I don't ever recall OJ being around black people. I don't know. Maybe that's just because we didn't have access to him like they did in America. But if you compare like American football players of today, you see them jumping in rap videos and social media posts, advertising and all that. I don't really remember seeing OJ like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't ever see him as like a black icon at the time, if that makes sense. Living in the UK, being quite young, I didn't see anything like that. So for me, if I look back at what I remember of the case and stuff, I don't think it was someone identified for doing stuff for the community or anything like that. Because again, I can't visually link anything in my head that suggests that was the case. I think it was purely race.
Yeah.
It was a black person to support at that time. But like I said, I was literally 7 years old, so
No, it's a good point. But even back then, as far as your age was concerned, even back then, you had an idea and a recollection of OJ essentially being. And I'm trying to use. I don't want to use this term as a throwaway word, but as far as you're concerned, he was considered to be more of a sort of coconut sellout type of black person. Not one of the mandem as we would.
I would argue I just didn't see him associated with anyone. To me, he was just the guy in the movie. You know what I mean? He didn't appear like, for being an athlete and all that. It's not like Tiger Woods where you saw him in like campaigns and whatever. There was no. I can't put him to anything other than the movies until the trial.
Right. How about you, Doc?
So thinking back, again, I was still very young. And after talking about it, I remember the Naked Gun. Yeah, definitely. Actually, I think I was written when I said he definitely featured in the videos first. I remember before that is, I think obviously because in the UK we weren't so big on NFL and all that stuff. He wasn't as well as a domestic name. But again, agreeing with a lot of what P said, everything about his demeanor, everything about if I ever saw him in public eye, what he was associated with was very far detached from the black community. So, and even when I look at like RW said, even when I look at the way he presented himself, he could literally, give him white paint and he would like not face the cut his hair, everything about him was very much like that.
Yeah.
But I just knew from that age when I was quite young, even though I didn't really understand it well, I felt the momentum that almost said, you have to support this guy. This guy supported your mum, but he's black. So you have to support this guy because he's black. I just felt that momentum and that energy when I was that young. So the case became very interesting to me because it kind of showed me that how powerful a thing the collective can be and how powerful emotions can be, because logically thinking about it, there's a lot of stuff that's a bit frowsy about the whole situation. But I feel like the black community then, when I was younger, felt like we were so easy to say, man, it's calm, he's black. If he's black, he gets a pass. So I think the most telling thing for me in that period was that feeling of momentum in the community that whatever he's done, he didn't do it. As far as he didn't do it. We can talk separately, but he didn't do it.
And so do you think effectively this was compounded by the fact that during that time, and even to this very day, there were ample examples, early social media examples, when I think of the Rodney King beating, when Rodney King was captured by a guy that had a camcorder getting absolutely tucked in by feds, beaten, matched to bits, which essentially led to the LA riots. And I always felt that the OJ Simpson trial was a political decision, like a collateral damage from the American justice system, where we're like, whoa, we didn't know these niggas could actually mobilize themselves into destruction. If we get this wrong, or even if the verdict is indeed correct, but we make this brother guilty, knowing what he's done for the sport, knowing that he's done for the NFL, knowing that he's always the equivalent of Michael Jordan in American football, right? If you put this man in prison, it could be a civil war in the United States where we could have the Nation of Islam as a KKK spilling into every four corners of the United States. Did any of you ever feel that? I'll come to you.
I think it played a part. It played a part, definitely. But ultimately, for me, America, especially white America, learned that day the most powerful color is green. You know, that's what it came down to me. Green. He was wealthy enough to get the verdict he wanted to get.
Exactly.
And I think white America just wasn't used to a black man being able to pull that off.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's that's ultimately what it came down to. It was Cochran, the glove. No, and it was a key part. Because they tried to, I can't remember, I was watching a TV show that they made of it, the recent one we were talking about, and they made that part of it really important. I can't remember if the defense was trying to, or the prosecution was trying to stop him from putting the glove on, or the defense was trying to stop him from doing it. Either way, that was one of the key iconic things, was that hand not fitting in the gloves.
What? Yeah, I remember. If the glove don't fit,
that's what everyone remembers. The glove don't fit, and then OJ was like, the glove don't fit. But yeah, I think it was deeply race driven, but America's based on the greenback. Whether you're black or whether you're white,
doesn't make a difference.
And it doesn't when you've got enough. You have a lot of paper. That was OJ. That was juice. But I still don't think I realized the gravity of what was happening really. Now looking back at it, I can actually put it more into historical context and understand what's going on. And, even to this day, even though the man was found innocent,
he was
found innocent.
But there's something I want to bring.
People will be quick to say that murderer OJ, right?
Yeah. But
However, guys, I want to share something with you. Some quick news article I found on this, which I thought was quite startling and quite interesting. But as we know, OJ died at age 76, and he was found not guilty of the death of his ex-wife Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman. All right, in a civil lawsuit. In a criminal lawsuit, but in a civil lawsuit, he was ordered to pay $33.5 million in damages, right? And at the time, OJ being well advised, as you know, Rob Kardashian was actually one of his initial lawyer before Johnny Cochran came along, and he was very well advised at the time. He claimed bankruptcy, but did you know that following his recent death, he's now been ordered? Creditors are essentially saying that out of the estate of the OJ Simpson monies or funds, the families of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman, will actually be given access to some of that money before his immediate family can actually get the spoils.
Really?
Yeah. Like, isn't that amazing? And then this article is actually from Sky News. So let me read it out to you, right? The executor of Simpson's will has suggested that Miss Brown and Mr. Goldman's families will be paid from his estate. If there's anything left over after claimants and creditors are paid, that is to be divided amongst the OJ's remaining or his surviving 4 children in equal shares. So that's what is going to happen. So even though, and this was what I found quite interesting, even though he was tried on the criminal law, the state versus OJ Simpson, he gets away with it, or some would argue he gets the verdict that his attorneys wanted at the time. Yet on the civil lawsuit, $33.5 million in damages is to be paid out. Now, don't you find that quite rather strange?
Now, is that to be paid out, or that's what they want, or has the decision been made that that amount will be paid to them?
Yeah, this decision was made in 1997. So 2 years after he was actually acquitted for murder, this decision, he was trialed on the civil lawsuit when he was ordered to pay, and he claimed that he went broke and didn't have any money. Which is the very sort of common tactic amongst multimillionaires. How they hide their wealth when shit hits the fan. But now that he's gone and now that he's dead, obviously, and we will see through the death of many sort of prominent black athletes or black musicians, whether it's Tupac, Michael Jackson, or now in this case OJ Simpson, their stock value rises even more, because they're now a deceased, and a posthumous work that they've actually done, rises in value. But what I found quite startling is the fact that the families of the victim could potentially get most of all of OJ Simpson's wealth that is accumulated over the course of his life, and his children could potentially be left destitute. In fact, and some would argue that the children of OJ Simpson are just as innocent as the victims' families and rest in peace to Ronald Goldman and to Nicole Brown. I mean, no way denigrated their history and their lives as human beings. But I just found that quite interesting, really.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting point. I think it taps hugely into the fact that, and again, like I said, exactly what you said at the ending, no disrespect to the families who lost loved ones, a legacy that he could potentially leave for the kids that are around could potentially be erased. And okay, he may have been acquitted. Again, I think another important thing that I perceive for a man is their legacy. You can't get the man, but you get his legacy, and he goes, what's left of him.
And I think it goes back to the point that Reece just made. It's all about the greenback, man. That is probably the most important aspect of what OJ Simpson stood for when he was a wealthy and rich black man. He had the money and he was able to procure himself the best justice defense that money could buy. And I think in the face of it all, and this is really what made things quite interesting for us now that we're older, we can actually analyze the situation a lot better than when we were kids, is at the time we sided with OJ purely based on race because he was black. And if you weren't siding with OJ, you're almost seen as a sellout. You was an OJ camp and the white people. And if you were siding with the whites, then that's it. You were no longer black. Even though OJ had nothing to, even though OJ probably never been to a cookout in years. He probably doesn't even eat pork ribs.
Exactly.
Or none of that stuff.
Right? The collard green. What's the other thing they eat?
Collard green and mac and cheese or whatever those black Americans eat. He probably didn't eat any of that stuff. He was probably on caviar and all salmon and all that kind of stuff, right? But the moment he commits a crime, he's now black again. He's almost like one of those. He's one of us because the justice system are trying to get him done. But as you say, his family members, the people that should benefit from his estate, irrespective of what OJ has done or not done, the justice system found him not guilty, and yet he's been found guilty on the civil on the civil court. His family's been robbed of the ability to sustain themselves going, for the foreseeable future. So that generational wealth that OJ was possibly working for and working towards is now vanishing.
Yeah. I think another big thing about I think another big thing about also that period in time, and I think successive years after that, is I think another reason why black people rallied so firmly behind him is because there was that pervasive feeling that the system in the States, which is obviously backed by evidence, was completely biased. There were lots of people who were trying, like I was reading not long ago, that the States have this system where they can throw you into a cell and you can sit there for a hot minute. And if you say to them you did it, even though you didn't, they'll throw you out and they put you in cell. We put you on probation. But that is an infringement against your name. You can't do certain things. So people who didn't do anything would go into these short-term places where they were locked up, constantly be bombarded with pressure to say, well, if you say you did it, will just give you a little slap around the wrist, tell you can go, you'd be cool. And they would think, okay, fuck it, I'll do that. Not realizing that actually that means you can no longer vote. You know, it means that you now have this scar over your name. So there was that pervasive feeling that this system has done us so many injustices.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he rode that wave of the Black community feeling like this is finally a time where we may, if we're honest, think, do it. But we're looking at the system saying, finally, the system is showing that the bias isn't, I won't say the bias isn't there, but somebody has made it through without falling victim or falling kin to the obvious biases in the system. I think that's the lower level. But obviously what RW has said is the correct fact. It's a lot like to do with Trump in the fact that it's about the paper. He had the paper to be able to say, yo, I can bust this case.
Trump 2024.
Trump don't care about color. He cares about paper.
Yeah. I'd like to bring maybe a contrasting and recent situation that we discussed as a group recently, and I want to come to you, P. Obviously, over the last few weeks, P. Diddy's been in the news for all sorts of allegations, right? From what we understand, P. Diddy's one of hip hop's first moguls. He's a billionaire. Do you think that the Black community, irrespective of where they are located across the world, America, diaspora, or whatever, if this was to go to trial, let's just say we had a trial, right? Similar to what OJ was. This is the new trial of the century, P. Diddy against the state. What do you think how do you think people will react to it? What kind of camps do you see? Do you see a divisive black and white camp in this trial? Or would it be a bit of mixed emotions where now that we've got this cancel culture, people will say, bun that, he's guilty anyway?
I think it would probably be more divided between the black community than the white community making noise about a Diddy trial, if I'm honest. Like, if you look at it, you've already got black artists going against Diddy, 50 Cent, etc., yeah. I don't think you'll hear the white noise as much as the black noise because the media will focus on, I think, the black community turning on itself. So I think it'd be a different set of circumstances. You got more voices now in the black community, you know, at this time. So I was actually looking up when you lot were talking. You know, OJ Simpson, who else was around at that time? Michael Jordan, artists, you know, rap culture, all that sort of stuff was just in the early 90s starting to become mainstream, etc. It wasn't the same amount of black influencers or people around to have like a fair contest. So when you had OJ up there, who would have matched him? Maybe Michael Jordan, maybe a Tiger Woods, maybe. But like, you know, Michael Jordan was doing his own thing in the NBA. Tiger Woods was waiting for his years to come past and do his own demeanors. So I think it'd be very different. I think you just hear the black community, and I think the black community would be divided. It'd be male and female divide. It'd be male on male. I think it'd just be so split.
Aldous?
To be honest, it's a different age, and we've got access to information in a way we didn't have back in the 90s when it was happening with OJ. And I think that just creates a different perception now. We've got enough data to know something shifty was going on. Whereas with the OJ trial, you didn't really get a lot of information other than, you know, the news coverage, and that was about it. But now we can see in-depth, real-time, you know, the feds raiding the house real-time on your hand device. You know, all of that changes and skews how you view a person. So I don't see that much. I don't see controversy based around race on this, if I'm honest. I really don't. I think there might be more I think there would be a divide within the race, or if it was, you know, R. Kelly, you definitely see a gender divide there, because there's armies of women that will die for that man, and sacrifice their young daughters to that man if it meant he would sing them a song. You know, so I don't really see that same divisiveness with P. Diddy. To be honest, for me, P. Diddy's was no longer relevant since, you know, the mid noughties. But stepping from, you know, I know he's been the producer, so he's kind of focused on that, but as an actual figure, unless you're in the industry, you know, it's allegedly fallen victim to his advances and such tapes, etc. Outside of that, Diddy's not massively influential. I would think, okay, yeah, you know, what he did with Bad Boy in the 90s and the early noughties, absolutely amazing. But from that point, not really.
But isn't it the institution of, say, legacy building that people are trying to safeguard? So hence why when people like OJ, people like Diddy, people like R. Kelly essentially are found guilty of crimes, you know, it's almost a bit of it carries a degree of importance because we admire their prolific endeavors wherever they are, musical, athletic, you know,
but if
there
I'm
is an
honest,
admiration.
But look, the reality is, if you are a black man and you have made yourself a success, you should know the world doesn't treat you the same. Okay? It's harder. It just is. There's no debate. Is it fair? Is it right? It doesn't matter. It is. Right? So you should be safeguarding yourself more than your white contemporaries. So I hear this stuff about OJ and now people have access to his estate. But as you said, it was announced in the 90s that this was the case, right? It was announced years ago.
Correct. 97.
Then it's his failing for not putting a plan in place.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. They telegraphed and said, if anything happens to you, we can take everything, effectively. Right? So what you then do is put a plan in. He's got money. Put a plan in place to make sure that your kids in the state are taken care of. Is it right? Is it fair? Doesn't matter. They're coming. Do you know what I mean? The fact whether it's right or wrong is immaterial. So that's my feeling on that. Is surely things could have been done ahead of what's happening now to prevent that. I do believe, but I'm not, you know, huge kind of finance guru. I wouldn't know, but with that sort of money, come on now. Something can be done.
I want to come to you, Doc, because as you and I are both aware, there seems to be a trend amongst black athletes or even black high achievers, right? Their ability to keep money, they know how to make it, but their ability to keep money is diabolical. You know, even when you think of, you know, like give you an example, when Michael Jackson was on trial, there were talks of him being skinned. And that's why he had to go on a tour at the age of 50. They were asking a 50-year-old to moonwalk up and down the stage to the point where, you know, he probably killed himself using roids and stuff.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm just startled at the fact that you've got these black individuals who are able to generate large sums of money, sums that some of us will never get to see or even to dream about, but are unable to keep it. I mean, what is going on?
So I think that's hugely multifactorial. There are lots of elements to that. Great question. I think the foundations have to come up in a lot to do with, again, our ability to stand in a new environment and kind of fend for ourselves. So I think a lot of the time, if, as RW was saying, in order to get to those places, as a black person, there is no denying it. You have to do a lot more. You probably pick up some trauma on the way as well to get to that place.
Yeah, boy.
The more you have to jump through, the more time you have to get burnt to get somewhere. You know, you reach that place, your mind isn't going to be the same. And you haven't got the people around you advising. You haven't got the relatives around you who know that kind of wealth, who know what you should be doing, how to spend wisely, how to invest in the future. And so you step into that new realm of wealth, and then you've got all the people around you looking to you saying, oh, now you're there. Can you please, you know, provide for me? And then as an individual yourself, you start filling those holes and getting materialistic. Like, oh, now I'm here. I've got to keep up with my white neighbors who have the Benzes and who have this and who have that and who have, the pool and this and that. And so you slip into that realm, but you don't understand that coming from a position where you are, you don't have generational wealth. So what they can do may have been 20 generations, 10 generations, 5 generations back. You just stepped into that realm in your overdraft. These guys have got old money. You've got new money.
Correct.
And if you've not put that investment in the foundations down, you can't spend new money like other people spend old money. And not having that environment, that the culture around you, people or elders to be able to advise you and say, yo, you need to be doing this with your money and investing in this and investing in that. It's hard. And you go into those places and the culture and the lifestyle. I think I was watching a documentary, and it was about a sports player, and he was just saying that as a sports, like coming up in America in sports, it's almost impossible for you not to spend large amounts of money. Like as soon as you get your contract, you come to the training ground and everybody's in the huge expensive cars. The pressure is overwhelming to buy that car. The pressure is overwhelming to buy the jewelry that goes along and to slide into that lifestyle. And it's okay for other people who, like I said, who have older money or have people around them who are wise, advising them, look, spend in this, invest in property, do this and do that. But you're like, oh, this money, I'm just getting it. And you think, oh, that person can get this and that person can get that, and I can buy the car and I can buy this. And I think you just end up in that negative cycle. And I think when you make such vast amounts of wealth, you can also trick yourself into thinking, I can always do that. No matter what industry you are in, we get older, and no matter how much energy you can put when you're younger, that is going to deteriorate.
Of course.
And if you think you're going to be able to do that in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, it's a lie. But at that time, on top of the world, I think we convince ourselves, I can still do this when I'm 70. And the reality is when you're 70, you can't, but you've still got all those expenses. You've got your zoo in your back garden and the playground. So I think it's hugely multifactorial, and I think it comes down to, again, a community thing of where in school, they don't teach you how to manage wealth. They don't teach you how to manage money and say, hey, if you get some money, there's this thing called investing, or if you get some money, there's this thing called compound interest. You see everybody around you flashing all the expensive jewelry and cars, and you think, yo, as soon as I get money, that's what I've got to do.
One other thing I was thinking about when you were saying that, when you take ethnic or the black community and you put it as a stage sort of presence, etc., like the names you list off are all pioneers. And if you look at the rate of which black people and other communities outside of the white community actually gain traction, skills, develop, etc., I think it's quicker. And so when you got like the names that you're listing, one thing is the wealth side of it, the money coming in, but it's also the talent and the skill growing, I think, at a faster rate. So when you got pioneers all the time, like wasn't it Dre who, with Beats by Dre and all that kind of stuff, became the first black billionaire? He was the first one, and that was in what year? Whereas, so the generational thing, one, we don't have a legacy to fall back on, but two, you're constantly setting new ground as well. So when you're looking around you for advice, who's going to advise you when you're setting the trend?
That's a good point. And the point I wanted to touch on as well, gents, is if you are the minority amongst a minority, because you come from a minority group and you're also a minority multi-millionaire, who can you turn to for advice? Who can you turn to for genuine advice on someone's going to genuinely help you to safeguard your money? Because, there isn't an accountant or an accounting firm that resembles you or that is of, has the same ethnic background as you are, that can advise you and say, do you know what, Doc, I can keep your dough. Do you know what, Reese, I know how to make that money flip 3, 4, 5 times and safeguard it into your trust so that, 10 generations from now, your family's going to be good. You almost have to take your hard-earned money and go to a group of individuals that do not resemble you and that you almost have to entrust with your wealth and hoping that they will flip it or they'll safeguard it for you on your behalf. And you don't really know whether their intentions are true or not. I remember Fat Joe. of all the people, Fat Joe, that light-skinned big guy, having a go at, there's an accounting firm called BDO, and they're a very reputable firm, right? You can look him up. They stole his money. They were literally, he used them to account to do his accounting, and he realized that he was getting money taken from him from the people that were doing his audits and his accounting. Yeah, and he came on the Breakfast Club and many platforms to actually say now he's in charge of his own accounting, he does it all himself. He takes full accountability because I don't know if you know this, but he served jail time for not filing his taxes on time. And again, he was relying on his accountants to do it for him. You know, so it just goes to show. And he's light skinned. You know?
What do you think we get advantages?
Yeah, no, clearly not.
The light skin card expired on him, but he didn't get it.
Yeah, mate.
Bro, we get it from both sides. There's no one we can trust. What are you talking about?
Expired. Big time. Real talk. So when I heard this, I was very surprised because it's, you know, we all have we all aspire to make it and to make it big, you know. But when we do get there, eventually, how do we safeguard it? You know, or certainly, how do we prevent our own mistakes, the mistakes that we haven't done yet, that we could potentially do, that will prevent our descendants or progeny of wider family members to benefit from some of our efforts and endeavors, you know. And this is what I found quite startling about this article today. I was like, oh, come on, man, the guy's dead.
I mean, but to be honest, I don't think it's that hard. I mean, I've got an email from a Nigerian prince. He seems to be giving me loads of advice. He just says no, I think that going back to the actual question itself, there's an element of financial literacy within the community which is just very poor, right? I remember if you just look at how quickly the black pound or the black dollar circulates out of the community, it's shocking in comparison to other communities. I remember hearing a stat saying, basically the average African American woman's net value is $5, right? Oh. When you add everything up, because the dollar circulates so quickly out of the community that there's no inward investment. I think that we have a skewed view of wealth within the black community because we look at entertainers and athletes. That is the poorest group to look at, right? That's not the group, especially athletes. No shade to the athletes. But you've made your money through physical intelligence, not necessarily financial acumen. And there are those that are good with finances around them, right? That just see them as product, see them as a mule. Okay, especially the athletes. If you look at the NFL, it's one of the really great example of where you've got peak athletes that just lose everything very quickly because many of them come from single parent homes. Let's just be honest. As I said, financial literacy is not high. It is spend. There is no concept of investment. And also as a community, we, for some reason, look to others to tell us what to do or how to do it. We look to others to educate us on, no. You have to start from no one's going to tell you. Do you know what I mean? Or the ones that do tell you, won't tell you the full story. So you've got to, do you know what I mean? You've got to know it yourself. You've got to know it. And again, that's part of just the additional challenge we have as black men. Is it fair? No, it's not fair. But it is.
One of the...
I think one of the great things about recent times now, in comparison to going back to the OJ Simpson times, is, and I think we spoke about this in the Diddy talk, is there are a huge reduction in gatekeepers. The flow of information is so much easier. You just need to invest in yourself and take the time to find that information. But there are so many reputable sources out there, and it's in your hand, literally. Whereas before, that information was heavily gatekept. If you didn't know the right people or you didn't move in the right circles, there was no opportunity for you to know about investing or how to make your wealth rise. Now, I think another problem we have is probably there's a deluge of information. You have to now sit down and decipher, who are the representatives, who do I trust, who don't I trust. But I think, the access to information is there now. So I think it's much easier for people to take that time and opportunity to recognize how you can build a legacy.
Yeah.
You have to, take that.
Can I just jump on that one? Yeah. So the other thing is as well that if you look at what we're doing right now, 10 years ago you couldn't do this, and nowadays people can actually start something themselves with minimal investment. Like we know what we put into this, and we've started something, and there's more black products now. Maybe not businesses, but products. And the other thing is you've got access, and people are quite transparent nowadays in terms of this failed or that failed or whatever. Like it seems to be more of a sharing culture. And if you're clever enough, you look at what opportunities are there, and you look at whoever's taken the risk or whatever and failed before you. And now it's like there's more examples. There's more black examples now than previously. And then if we touch on going back to one of our episodes, I can't remember, Doc, which way you said the point, but yeah, sorry, this one. Black vs Asians. We spoke about the Asian community having businesses, etc. Well, now I think you see more black faces on YouTube, etc. If you do a search, you'll see quite an even split. And things like branding and stuff like that is now coming into the black community, sponsorship, etc. So there's different ways now, and with that comes the opportunity to manage things differently. And if you think about, sorry, go on.
Sorry, yeah, but I want to make a point as a pleasure, people, in terms of what you were saying. But to some degree, personal accountability and personal conduct will allow you to have access to groups of individuals and groups of people. So going back to the OJ Simpson as an example, his athletic prowess allowed him to get into meet circles of individuals outside of his immediate family and neighborhood, prominent white people. When he was accused of murdering his ex-wife and her friend, he had access to Rob Kardashian, he had access to Johnny Cochran and some of the best lawyers in the country. Johnny Cochran just happened to be black, but he was one of the best lawyers at the time. So after he was acquitted, there's an argument that the people that his acquittal effectively was controversial because most people believed he did do the murders. And I think after that point, perhaps the individuals distanced themselves from him, didn't want to associate themselves with an individual who they believed his character was flawed, and got away with it. And as a result of that the professional advice that you could have got thereafter, that safeguards that money that you had after your acquittal, is now being robbed from you because now your family members can't, now that you've died at the age 76, your family members can't get a piece of whatever you've got left.
I disagree with this. I think as a father, like we got kids. I don't think I need anyone to tell me that I need to think about putting something away. Because when you come into that money, surely one of your first thoughts are sorting out legacy, like Doc said. Sorting out legacy.
Yeah. I think even before you come into money, I think as soon as kids, that worry is there. It's like, right,
constant.
there needs to be foundations, and especially I know a lot of us have come from, as you mentioned before in previous podcasts, that we've come from council estates and difficult upbringings, difficult family situations. I think you learn that situation you grew up in wasn't right. So I think one of your early motivating factors is, if I've been through that generationally, I don't want my next successive generations to have to even hint at being anywhere near that. So early are like, right, how am I going to beat this and create some form of generational wealth? And I agree with what RW was saying. I think the system will always try to, as a black man, come for you in some shape, form, or way. So you have to be not just normal. Take the advice from mate Tim. You got to have Tim's advice with an extra boost on top.
Yeah, you do. Absolutely. And even if it's even going to, because there are others, it's not just athletes and entertainers that make money within the black community. You've got industrialists, you've got bankers. You don't hear about them because the community is dysfunctional. doesn't celebrate and glorify them. It just goes to these,
9 to
the
5
entertainers, and those that live a, let's say, deviant lifestyle because they want us all to live that way. And I agree that, when you make money, the first thing you think about is the children. Not every guy does, though.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
every
I
guy
was going to
does.
say there is one thing. I don't know if you guys realize this. I was looking at the timeline, but OJ had a child that died as a toddler in '79.
Yeah.
So I was also wondering, like, would that have been something, mental health wasn't a thing in the '90s, really, was it? When all this stuff was happening, but that does make you wonder what toll that would have had, if that maybe had an impact or bearing.
Yeah,
but I just don't. Sorry, I'm not. I just can't let him off the hook on that.
I agree with you.
Because American, accountants. Okay, let's say every accountant in America believes OJ did it. There's an entire world, and it's not like he died before the internet was invented. So ultimately he's in the situation he's in, and he's a very complicated character. I've seen sketches of him, doing, I think there's something called Ruby Wax back in the 90s and early noughties. She's like a comedian. She was on Channel 4 ITV. Yeah,
I remember Ruby.
She did. I think it was with him, and she did an interview, and then he was talking to her, and he went,
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And then she was like, actually, that's just really not funny, so she really took that seriously. And there, you can find skits all the time of OJ doing something, there was the thing that he did with a Pontiac? Was that the name of the car? The type of car that he was driving? Can't remember, but
he drove a Bronco.
Bronco, right? Yeah. So
yeah.
and then there was a skit where it had OJ selling a white Bronco, trying to sell a white Bronco to these people and say, do you want this? I give it for a good price. And the guy's like, really? Is that the Bronco? I was like, yeah. So he did take it and was mocking it and was and was embracing it in that way. So he was a
Didn't he do a
complicated
book?
character.
Didn't he write a book?
Wasn't it called something about like getting away?
Getting away with murder or something. If I did it,
yeah.
But again, that's the American way. I know people don't like it, but that is why he, outside of the athletics, he used that as the springboard. But you got to give it to the Americans. Even use that as a platform to make money from.
Marketing at all costs.
Yeah, it is.
I was reading recently something. I think it's not recently, probably a couple of years ago, when Trump was first in. We were talking about marketing, and somebody said, especially in today's era, that there is no such thing as press. All press is good. If people are talking about you, whether it's bad, good, in between, it's great. And I think that's just the case. If you're on people's mouths, when it comes down to being elected or when it comes down to making decisions, natural default instincts will be to say, yeah, that person should do it. That person should be the chance. That person should be not spend money.
Yeah.
Whose name's on your lips?
Absolutely. Now it's about trending, but it's the same principle, isn't it? It's as long as you're trending, regardless
I'm
of
going
what
to
you're
share
trending
something.
for.
Sorry, because I just had a stupid idea. Yeah, but I was just obviously we know that OJ did go to prison in the end when he tried to rob his own shit.
Yeah, he did.
But I just found I'm looking at his timeline. I don't know if this works. Let me see I don't know if this works, but there's a picture I just found of him, and it just it won't let me do it. No, it won't let me do it.
Are you trying to share it?
I was trying to see if it would allow me to. No, it won't. It won't do it. There's a funny picture that I've got. Can I send it in the chat or something?
Yeah, send it in the chat. Go put it up.
Let's see. But this guy did it, man.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because as we come to the hour, we come to the conclusion of the show. But I might as well ask you first, please. A pleasure, piece. So, like, like 1-on-1, like, do you think OJ killed those two people?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I'm looking at the guy's face. I wish you guys could see what I could see. I wish you could see what I could see, but that's a guy who did it. I think I could do it. Hold on. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah.
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 Bro, that's the face of someone who did it.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's the face of someone who did it.
Like, yo.
That says a lot.
And even this dude here,
that says a lot.
he knows he done it too, bro.
That shirt says a lot too. He looks like someone who did that shit.
That's mad. That's mad. So, moving on to you, Doc, man. Did OJ do it?
Nah, OJ did that shit. And maybe, but or he did. I think what is amazing to me, like I say, is that OJ played the system at his own game, and he won. But yeah, he did that.
He did that.
You could be GTA style driving a dual carriageway and helicopters chasing you if you're innocent.
It's true. If you're innocent, why drive off and why not stop?
Yeah.
Our dubs, man. What do you reckon? Did he do it?
All I can say is, the glove didn't fit. The glove didn't fit, and he was found innocent. Look, but on a serious note, at the end of the day, that's down between him and God, as to whether he because effectively we're talking about murder. Two people were murdered,
and they haven't found the killers to this day.
Exactly, right, and all of the behavior was very, very suspect, very, very suspect. And I feel if I was the family members, I would absolutely 100% believe that he did it. So yeah, that's kind of where I land on it. It's, that's between him and God. It don't look good. Do you know what I mean? From the getaway driving, which you could say, look, if you've come across your ex-wife brutally murdered and someone else brutally murdered, who knows how you would respond? You say you will respond a particular way. You don't know that. So, there is that element, but there's a lot of evidence against him. The glove didn't fit.
As you say, the glove didn't fit. Now, my recollection of the trial is quite hazy, but from what I can gather, a woman and a man were brutally murdered. To me, suggests that there was some hanky-panky going on, potentially between those two individuals that would enrage a man to want to kill the man who's smashing some, his love interest, and at the same time, for also wanting to harm the woman. There was a recent incident that took place in Mexico somewhere. It was on Twitter a few weeks ago, where a brother was dogging this woman on the bed, just like beating it, and then the girl's partner would literally found where the hotel room was, came in with a borer and started shanking. Like he shanked the guy who was dogging his missus. The guy did a couple of strokes and literally run off, got stabbed a couple of times, and a woman was still on her all fours, and he's just like boring her, and she got stabbed multiple times and died. Now,
Shanky, let me get a couple strokes out.
Yeah, bro, I couldn't believe it. Man wanted to bust his nut. But when I watched this, and I thought, it could have been a similar situation to what maybe OJ find himself in at the time, because he takes a man of some form of physical prowess to be able to murder successfully two individuals. Do you know what I'm saying? To be able to duck, and physically, OJ fits the description of a potential individual with that kind of acumen and skill set that could do it.
But black, as you say, black and male.
And quick. What?
Black and male and quick.
I'm not saying that, but all I'm saying is I was somewhat surprised at the verdict, even at the time. I remember I was a youth back then. I was like 15 years old when the trial came to an end. But even back then, I was like, rah, like he got away with it, because I thought, it was like it just looked too obvious. And also, in my experience of watching movies in the 90s where the black man always dies first, I did not think that he was going to get away with it. I always believed there was going to be some kind of, verdict that would make him guilty. So the fact that he was not guilty surprised me quite a lot, even at being a teenager back in those days. But if I'm brutally honest, between us, man, boy, it's not looking good. It's
not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good.
Sticky situation. Yeah. Great. Well, listen, guys, we've come to the hour of our show. Thank you all for coming in and for being part of the podcast. RW, much respect. Pleasure P, much love. The Doc, always coming through with the wisdom. Sincere appreciations to all our viewers and listeners. Please continue to follow us on all our social media platforms. We're on Spotify, we're on Instagram, we're on where else are we on? TikTok, Facebook. I mean, we're everywhere. All right. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us individually also. We've all got our Twitter handles, our Instagram handles. Send us DMs, send us naughty pics. I'm only joking. You can if you want to.
He's not joking.
Just follow us through, man. Listen, we just want to bring you guys good vibes, intellectual discussions, but the way that we will do it as if we were together in a barbershop. So please like, share, subscribe, and follow us for the next episode. Peace.
Peace, people.